All right, guys, Greg Collins back with you, church debater and preacher Mike. Mike, how you doing?
Hey man, I'm doing great.
We were just joking. Your sermon was about comfort today, so I'm sure you loaded up on comfort food just a few minutes ago.
Yeah, I picked out my favorite comfort food from a certain local restaurant and went and picked it up and had it right here in my office. And um, I you interrupted my nap.
I tell you what, Taco Bell just ain't right on Sundays, man.
Well, you know what? It wasn't Taco Bell, so that's odd.
All right.
Yeah,
I do like
Sonny's,
the
buddy.
Sonny's.
Yeah,
That's the number one barbecue chain in America, believe it or not.
I didn't know that.
Yep, sure is.
Well,
I like Sonny's. I like Sonny's.
a trivia guy.
I try. Oh, I've got a good one. I got a good trivia for you at the end of the show. All right.
Oh,
I'll share
here
it
we
with
go.
everybody
Here
at the
we
end of the
go.
show.
All
All
right.
right. Now, it's obvious I haven't challenged you enough yet this year. So I've got a good one for you today.
Okay.
All right. Here we go. It's what it is. I've got it set up. So I'm going to give you a task. Then I'm going to give you the directions on how to accomplish the task.
All
And
right.
then I'm going to tell you the recipient of when you complete the task. It'll make sense once I say this. I'll just say it now. I'll just say it. All right.
I'm
So
excited. I'm ready to go.
your task is going to be to dictate a letter, okay,
Hmm.
a voice letter.
Yeah.
The thought behind the dictation is what are the 5 things that are important for the year 2021?
Oh.
And you're writing it to President Joe Biden.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So
Got it.
the 5 things that you would write in a letter, maybe as your wish list for our new president for the year 2021.
Wow. You want me to say this in the as though I were writing a letter or just list the things?
um, you can just list the things. Just list the things. That's
Okay.
fine.
All right.
But think of it as if you were sending him a wish list for 2021.
You know what? I'm going to do it that way. I'm going to say it
All
or,
right.
or writing it.
All right.
All right. Dear President Biden, for 2021, here is what I would like to see happen. Number one, remind everyone, show everyone that we are still a nation under God. Let's make sure that God gets first billing. We follow him. We do what he wants before we do what we want. Number two, I want us to be able to be free in this country. We need to, the only way to be free is to know that nobody else can harm me, then I'm free. Freedom, by definition, has boundaries. And the boundary that I want is I want to be safe. And everybody wants to be safe. So let's make sure that the people who don't care about that are removed from our society.
Good.
Number three, I want us to think about being the country that takes the lead in the world. I don't want us to follow the world as they lead. Because we're a nation under God, started that way and acknowledged that in our Constitution. We by definition, need to lead in this world. Number four, I hope that you will guarantee that everybody can trust the system that we have in the United States. We are a democratic republic. Every single person matters. This is a country that is governed by the people and for the people. And we don't need tyrannical imperial leaders. We need servant leaders. And number five, bring back sports.
I'd be all right. I've liked them all. I've liked them
Put
all.
people in the stands again before the NCAA tournament gets here.
All right, those are pretty good. Pretty good responses. All right, now same task, same questions, but your your wish of five for the Christians that you come in contact with on a daily basis. What would be your wish for them as we head into the new year?
That we make good resolutions that we keep at the beginning of the year. And that would involve taking that as the blanket statement and then 5 things that we need to think about. One, we need to move on past 2020. Whatever baggage we're bringing around, let's not haul it into 2021. Physically, we don't have any control over that, but spiritually we do. Whatever has bothered us because of what we've been through, let's dump it in 2020, get back together in 21. Number 2, desire to be with other Christians. We've been stuck in the house for so long that some people might actually enjoy not being around people anymore.
Right.
Stop that. Let's get back together. Number 3, let's plan for the future. We had a bump in the road. We did not create a death penalty for us. It's a bump in the road. It's not a coffin. Let's get over it and plan for the future. We've got some exciting things that we need to do, some exciting things that I know that are coming, and let's get on board with that and prepare for that idea. Number 4, let's be sure to reach out to people that have been hurt and can't seem to get over. I talked this morning about the comfort that we're supposed to give each other. Well, it's time. There are people that need our comfort, and I'm talking spiritually. So let's be sure and do that. And number 5, I want us to have fellowship meals again. I'm looking forward to those.
So I guess you saved the best for last in both of those.
Both times.
Sports in one and food in the other. And a lot of times that goes together too.
It does.
All right, good. I like it. All right, let's see here what I can. You actually handled that better than I had hoped. You know, I wanted to kind of trip you up a little bit, but you just hit it out of the park again, right?
Well, I obviously have been thinking about some of those things.
All right. This popped into my head this week because I heard a person use the word. So I said, well, that might be a good discussion topic. Is being outspoken a negative trait?
Be outspoken. Well, I don't recall recently looking up the Webster's dictionary of that word definition, but the way that it is used oftentimes has a negative connotation.
Right.
Meaning
like peer pressure. Peer
pressure has a negative connotation. Yeah. That's exactly right. When it doesn't have to be outspoken, if it means can't ever get them to shut up, they're always putting in their opinion. They have to have the last word. Bad deal.
You were looking right at me when you said that, weren't you?
I was not. In fact, I quit looking at myself for that moment on the screen. But if that word means I'm willing to talk with anybody at any time who's in need of me to talk to them, especially in a spiritual sense, then that's certainly not it. The last commands that Jesus gave his disciples was to go out into all the world and preach the gospel. So you can't be out in the world without speaking. So outspoken is a good thing, seems to me.
All right, let me be more specific, and I know what you're going to say to this, so I'm just setting you up to say all the right things here. When should a Christian be outspoken?
A Christian should speak up whenever the things of God are being attacked. It is incumbent upon us to speak up and to speak out. Now, you began this this podcast with writing a letter to the president. Well, there are things that happen in the national field that violate the word of God, and we have to stand up.
Right.
There's a move in this country, and all you have to do is look at it. You see it on commercials and television all the time. But there's a move to make normal things that are abnormal, and getting us by suggestiveness, just being around it and seeing it all the time, to make us think that it's normal. And so there may come a time. In fact, my son, who preaches in Alabama, asked me recently, "Did you really say," I think I heard you say, he said, "that if the government comes out and says that it is a potential prison sentence if preachers preach against homosexual activity, what are you going to do? Are you really going to get in the pulpit the next time and do it?" It's exactly what I'm going to do. That will be what will happen. And not because that it's not good to do it any other time. It's always good to speak, but we have to stand up not against the concepts, but also the pressure that comes not to do it. We have to stand up and to say. It's interesting you would say that, since the verse for our reading today was from 1 Timothy.
Right.
Who will live godly in Christ Jesus shall suffer persecution. That's only true if we are outspoken people.
Right.
Not outspoken, we're not going to be persecuted. So, yes, I think that we should speak out in favor of good, opposing that which is evil, and be willing to take whatever comes from that.
Right. And I know you mean this in a loving nature as well.
Oh, sure,
it's
absolutely.
not like we don't love anybody that's involved with questionable things. We just hate the sin and love the hate the sin, love the sinner. Am I saying that right? Hate the sin,
right,
love.
man.
All right. All right.
You got it right.
Good. All right. I heard this phrase this week, and I want to know if it wasn't said about Christianity, but you know how my mind works. The first time I've heard it, I thought, how would we apply this thought to Christianity? Somebody said, "I never learn if I feel like somebody's trying to teach me a lesson, or if they're telling me I got to do this for my own good."
Yeah.
Or in other words, I learn better if you just kind of ease me into it instead of telling me you got to do this and you have to do it now. Does that change the approach of a Christian as far as communicating with others about the Bible?
Oh, it absolutely does. Yeah, absolutely it does. Because you and I both know from our time in the past that the delivery method of truth was much more direct and plain and mean-spirited, if you will, decades ago.
Right.
It was those things where you just throw it in people's faces. Part of that was because of the culture of the time, and that's just what people did. They expected that kind of thing. We don't live in that culture anymore. And for us simply to stand up and punch people in the face with it, it's just not going to work. And given especially the culture of the younger people of this day, we're not trying to trick them. I don't mean sneak up on them with anything, but I do think that they want to make sure that we value what they think and listen to what they think, and then lead that discussion of what they think into what we understand truth to be. And I think we're much more likely to catch somebody at the point of really wanting to have a discussion versus simply wanting to be told what to do.
Right. Right. Good. Good. I'm going to ask you a question that was sent in by Kent. We've had several questions from him.
Right.
He says, many prophets are in the Bible. Are there any modern day prophets?
Well, technically, that is one of those questions that, is it yes or no? The answer is yes and no. Because the word for prophet literally means one who speaks forth. From God. That may have a miraculous component, but it may not. So I don't believe that I have any miraculous component with me when I am speaking forth from God, preaching from the Bible. But I am prophesying in that I am speaking forth. Our problem is we think of a prophet as somebody who is always predicting the future. Well, that's
Right.
not always true. A prophet can also simply say, here is God's message for you right now in this time, and here is his word, here are his words. And that's what a preacher does. So the answer would be there are prophets in a non-miraculous sense who speak the word of God from Scripture. I don't believe that there are any prophets in the miraculous sense where God is speaking to them in ways different that he's speaking to everybody in general through his
Gotcha.
word.
All right. Good. Good. All right. One thing I talked about on the podcast I do, Substitute Teachers Lounge, get a plug in there real quick.
There you go.
One thing we're doing in virtual classes now are things called escape rooms. And basically you do it with a form. And it's just like, have you been in an escape room?
I have not.
You have not? Okay. We did one down in Savannah one time that only 32% get out of the concept though, right? Yeah.
Sure.
Only 32% got out and we got out. And
Right.
I knew anytime I've seen enough old movies that anytime you walk in a room and see a bookcase, well, that bookcase is going to turn eventually. That was the first thing. And that sure enough is how we ended up getting out. But anyway, the way it works in the virtual classroom is that you basically put a series of questions. They have to answer each one before they unlock that round. Then they get to go to the next round. They have to unlock all of those to get to the next round. So if we did that from a Christianity standpoint, what would you say is a question you would start with for Christians, in that once they get it right, I'll give you a more difficult question until you're eventually out of the room? Or in other words, what are maybe the 4 things you would prefer Christians to know first in progression? How do you like that?
You are specifying Christians versus non-believers.
Well, you could do it either way. Just do it for, I guess,
I think they're different. I think those are different scenarios.
Right.
Because for a Christian, what I would pose is some questions that to lead someone where they need to go. One of them would be, are you content as a Christian? And I will throw this in. I learned this from a young lady during a Wednesday night Bible study. To be content means I like it so much that I want more of it. To be satisfied means I'm so full of it, I can't take any more. So we don't want to be satisfied. We want to be content.
Right.
So my question is, are you content? If the person says, yes, I am content, then fine. Or if they say, no, I am not content, well, that takes you 2 different directions. So instead of going from one room to this room, you might be going to this room.
Well, that's the way these are set up too. So that was a perfect scenario right there.
Well, then therefore, if are you content? Number 2, are you willing to consider doing something about it? What do you think you need to do? What is important in your relationship to the Lord? That kind of a question. Number 3, what is your current level of involvement with the church? Are you content with it? Is it something that you think you're doing good enough? Or what can you do more? I think a 4th thing would probably be something along the lines of, are you willing, with the current thoughts that you have, the practices that you have, to face the Lord right now if he were to return? Now, those are 4 types of things that I think.
Yeah, those are good. I might make an escape room like that. That would be fun.
If I knew how to make those escape rooms, I'd like to do that. That sounds
yeah, yeah. They're actually not. Yeah, I mean, even you could handle one. You could do it. You could do it if you got it. Do you know anything about Google Forms? Do you use Google Forms for anything?
Not Forms. I use Google Classroom.
Google Classroom. This goes into Google Classroom. This is a form like if you're posting an assignment in Google Classroom, you're using a Google form, whether you know it or not. So you're probably already using it and don't know why.
Oh, I can guarantee that.
All right, let me give you the trivia question that I thought was interesting. I learned this on another, you know how I listen to those old radio shows. I don't know
I have one for you too.
Okay, good. Because we got about 5 minutes to go. So we'll do some trivia. Do you know what you call the washer and nut assembly that holds the propeller onto the top of a helicopter? What that is referred to as? You might know this. The nut specifically, what they call it.
I bet I have heard the term. Sounds sort of like, it's not linchpin, but it sounds like that idea, that concept. But
you're not even close. You're not close.
I'm sure I've heard it, but I do not know. No.
All right. It is called the Jesus nut.
Get out.
Let me tell you why. But I don't know which war it was, but back when helicopters first became popular and they actually started using them in battle, soldiers would, that nut was so important to the assembly, and nothing hardly ever happened to them. They were that solid. So there came to be a phrase called, if that nut ever fails, you better talk to Jesus. And it just came from that, and people started calling it the Jesus nut. I had never heard that before, but sure enough, if you Google it now, you'll see what it looks like. That's actually what they call it.
Well, I never heard of that. Now, I thought I would have.
I hadn't either.
We need to ask Jeff Curd.
That's right. I forgot about that. That's right.
Ask Jeff Curd if he knows about that.
Maybe we don't. He might just say, no, Greg's an idiot. He doesn't know what he's talking about.
They might say that anyway. But the Jesus nut, well, that's really cool. You know, I tell you what, though, you do bring up an interesting point, and that is there are a lot of things that have been named with connections to God.
I knew you were going to say that. Yeah.
Because it's, you know, you might even use that as one more proof.
I agree.
Innate sense that we have of something higher.
I think it's ridiculous that all of a sudden they've got us saying BCE instead of BC because they don't want before Christ to be part of our words anymore. So that's crazy.
It's not taken on though.
It's in all the textbooks.
Oh, I know that, but that doesn't mean anything.
What trivia question do you have for me? You said you had one for me.
I do. And it's since we're recording this on a Sunday afternoon.
Okay.
Preparing for tonight.
Okay.
My intro is going to use this, so instead of me looking it up, I could just ask the trivia guru about it.
You get me away from music and sports. All right.
It's music. Back in, I don't know when the dates were, but way back, I remember as a kid, and I don't know who the artist was. Maybe you do, but it fits my lesson tonight. And the song says, "I beg your pardon, I never promised you a rose garden."
That is either Anne Murray or Lynn Anderson. Now that I've said that, let me look it up.
Lynn Anderson, I think you're right.
Okay, I think it's Lynn Anderson. Anne Murray was from Canada. Not that they don't have roses there, but I think I never promised you a rose garden. Say something profound while I'm typing it in.
Well, the thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about the other side. You know, God says, I want you to have comfort. But he never said, I want you to be comfortable.
That's true. Good point.
And so that's what we're going to talk about tonight. And that's how I'm going to open it. So this was my intro together, and Greg Collins, the trivia guru, has spoken. And the answer is?
It is, in fact, Lynn Anderson.
I got
it right. I got it right.
I knew you would know. I had no doubt about that. So there
Yeah,
we
that'll
go.
be a good lesson. That'll be a good lesson. I never promised you a road, because if things were too easy, well,
Yep.
we wouldn't try to do anything. I
Nope.
mean, I'm not sure we'd ever, I'll give you, the principal popped in on me, and I gave an example where I had the answer in my head. I had it on my paper, wrote it differently on the sheet as I was explaining it to the kids, and she saw it. She saw it,
Oh,
and oh, she laughed about it later, and she said, "Now, kids, Mr. Collins just did that on purpose because he knew you learn more from mistakes you make than you do from getting it right the first time."
hey, that's quick recovery on
No,
that.
she's a good principal. I knew it didn't bother me. In fact, I made sure I had two other classes to teach that in. I make sure I got it right for them. So it was a
So you
learning
didn't just
experience for me.
you didn't duplicate it.
No, I have
That's
found that students do better with notes if
what I'm saying is,
they write them as I write
yeah,
them. So
right.
I write them fresh for each class.
Yeah, but I just figured you would use that learning by mistakes in every class.
Oh, I do. I do. I don't have to. I don't have to do it on purpose. It just occurs naturally. All right, Mike, leave us with some nice thoughts to get out of here on.
Well, just like I'm talking, don't look to be comfortable. The idea of being comfortable makes you sit down and do absolutely nothing.
Agreed.
Comfort, that's where the real thing is, the comfort in the uncomfortable.
I like it. I like it. And
Manner to live every day. Good attitude, I think.
truth. Now, be truthful. Was your lunch Taco Bell today?
No.
Oh, you told me that. All right, Sonny's. They told me that. All right.
Yeah, Sonny's barbecue, man.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
Taco Bell tomorrow.
One of my favorites at Taco Bell. So Mexican pizza's gone, so I'm mad.
I like the grilled cheese burrito though. That's
I do
pretty
like
good.
that.
Yeah.
I do like that.
All right. It's almost gone too, though. They're going to take it off here in another couple weeks. All right, guys. That is it for us. That's the end of Church Debater and Preacher Mike. Say goodbye, Mike.
Bye, Mike.